Welcome back to Talk Therapy channel on YouTube. I'm Tammy Fletcher, licensed marriage and family therapist, and today we're going to be talking about 4 relationship killers and what you can do about them. This video is going to cover 4 habits that can weaken your relationship or even tear it apart. The ideas are taken from Dr. John Gottman, who has over 4 decades of research into what makes relationships succeed or fail. I was fortunate enough to train with Drs. Julie and John Gottman, and they call these habits the 4 horsemen. I call them relationship killers. So let's talk about what they are and what you can do to offset their influence on your relationship if you're noticing any of them popping up. The first habit is criticism. Criticism sounds like a personal attack on your partner's character. Criticism typically will include statements like, "you always," or "you never." Statements that are in the absolute. And it makes the person feel like they're being personally attacked. Let's use an example. Let's say your spouse is responsible for paying some of the bills and he forgets to pay the cable company. You get a collections call and you're understandably upset about that. But you approach your spouse and you say something like, "I can't believe you forgot to pay this bill again. You are always forgetting things like this. I don't know how I can trust you to do anything. I believe you'd forget your own head if it weren't attached to your body." Ouch. Now, chances are your partner's reaction to this is not going to be very good. They may feel attacked, they may feel guilty, they're certainly going to feel put down. And approaching him or her that way is not going to get you to any sort of resolution, and in fact it can come between the two of you moving forward toward a positive outcome. Now, you have a valid complaint because bills have to be paid on time, but instead of approaching your partner without blame or criticism, you've come at them with both guns blazing. A different way to handle the situation without criticism is to approach your partner, take a deep breath, calm yourself first, and say something like, "I got a collections call today from the cable company. The bill wasn't paid as we had agreed upon. I wonder if we can sit down and talk about how to handle this better, because it makes me uncomfortable when our bills are late." You've expressed your complaint, which is a valid one, but you've left out the criticism, so your partner is not likely to feel blamed or put down or criticized. The second habit we're going to talk about is defensiveness. That can sometimes sort of be the flip side of criticism, or it can happen all on its own. Using the same cable bill example, defensiveness might sound like, "It's not my fault it wasn't paid on time, it's the bank. They didn't post my transfer in time. It's their fault." Defensiveness is protecting yourself from a perceived attack. Defensiveness can also involve cross-complaining, which would be something like, "Well, maybe I forgot to pay the cable bill, but you forgot to take the trash out again." It's meeting a complaint with another complaint. Defensiveness gets you nowhere. But there's another way to handle it. Just like with criticism, take a deep breath, calm yourself, and listen to what your partner is saying. Even if they're not saying it perfectly, try to listen for the meaning behind their words and to understand where they're coming from. If you own a part of the problem that they're expressing, take responsibility for it and do, as calmly as you can, express what your experience is. Once you're able to really hear and understand one another without defensiveness, you can work together to solve the problem. Third, we have one of the most insidious relationship killers, and that's contempt. Contempt is ugly and it hurts. Sometimes it's used to hurt the other person on purpose. Contempt is a form of attack. It's attacking your partner's sense of self with insults, name-calling, sneering, eye-rolling, making fun of them in a hostile way. All of those kinds of things are designed to hurt, and they really do hurt your partner. Dr. John Gottman's research over 40 years found that contempt was the #1 predictor of divorce among couples. Contempt shows that you feel disgust for your partner. And studies are beginning to show that not only does it have a poisonous effect on relationships, it can actually begin to adversely affect your physical health. Contempt usually comes from long-standing resentments against a partner. You can work to stop contempt by beginning to develop an agreement for boundaries, for mutual respect, and for creating appreciation between the two of you. Contempt is one of the habits that if you find your relationship is already there, you may want to reach out to a couples therapist for some assistance. Finally, we have the habit of stonewalling. In stonewalling, one partner tunes out. They may withdraw from the conversation, give the other partner the silent treatment, physically leave the room. They just basically tune out from what's going on. Stonewalling generally comes from a feeling of being flooded. Flooded means you feel completely overwhelmed. You're trying to process what's going on. There's probably going to be a physiological response. Specifically, your heart rate will speed up. And when that happens, different hormones are running through your body like adrenaline and cortisol. You are having a stress reaction, and part of that is physical. When that happens, it's very difficult to have a coherent conversation when it's a hot topic or something that is continuing to increase the sense of being flooded. The person who is stonewalling withdraws because at that point, that's usually the only thing that they can think of to self-soothe. Now, if you're the person whose partner is stonewalling, you may feel rejected or ignored, or if your partner just doesn't care enough to continue the conversation. You may not be aware, and in fact, they may not be aware that what's happening is that they are feeling emotionally flooded at that moment. So here's how to handle stonewalling. Take a timeout. Timeouts are something that, when they're used correctly, can really help both of you calm down, get some clarity, and then get back together at an agreed upon time and really move forward and make progress. It's helpful if the partner who is stonewalling can begin to recognize the signs that he or she starts to experience. Again, the number one sign typically being an increase in heart rate. You can take your own heart rate. If it's up like 85, 90, 95, 100, it's time to slow down. It's beating fast and you're feeling stressed. If you can recognize those signs and kind of agree between the two of you that if you get to that point where flooding is happening, a timeout's probably going to be the only thing that works. So approaching your partner and saying, you know what, I'm feeling really flooded right now. I don't think that I can go on with this conversation in a helpful way. So let's take an hour apart, and then you do. You agree to get back together. You're not abandoning your partner. You're just taking a breather to get your heart rate down, to distract yourself a bit, to clear your head, to maybe get some food or some type of healthy distraction that will make you feel better, get you to a calmer place where the two of you can get back together in an hour, a few hours, whatever you need. And then you'll probably find that both of you have calmed down and you can move forward in a much more productive way. So the next time you find yourself in a difficult conversation with your partner, notice which one, if any, of these relationship killers are present, and make an agreement between the two of you to resolve to work toward getting rid of them for good. It can take a lot of practice to consistently learn to use new relationship tools and ways to communicate with one another, particularly when you're under stress or there's a disagreement. But it's so worth it, and it can be done. And if you find yourself unable to take some of these tips and notice progress with your partner, please do consider reaching out to a couples therapist who's qualified to help you and can give you some practice and some advice on how to use these tips, how to recognize some of the danger signs, and how to make your relationship a lot better. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.